Welcome back to the workshop. It's been a while. What have we got for you this time? Well, this came off an organ. We'll show you a picture of the organ. It's a Yamaha organ, and because they were quite old, the Yamaha organs, like late 60s, they never had a rhythm box built in. Companies like Korg and Roland used to supply these drum boxes which would just bolt underneath the organ, and then you'd link it into the organ through the auxiliary, and then you'd have a drum box. These are quite rare. This is a Korg Minipops, or as they were called at the time, Keio, before they changed the name to Korg. So this is probably late 60s, early 70s. We reckon it could be maybe the second drum machine Keio stroke Korg made. Problem with this one is we have no power. We've checked, there's a fuse on the back. The fuse is blown. Put a new fuse in, but we've still got no power light on the front here. So it's quite simple. What we'll do is, I think there's 2 or 3, 4 screws on the top here and underneath, and then what we'll do, I'll turn it over, take the cover off, and you can see there's 3 boards inside. You've got the big voice board, then you've got the smaller board which I think is full of diodes, which is the rhythm board, and then you've got the power supply board, which we're going to look at to see if there's a loose connection or a fault, or maybe a capacitor needs changing. So let's turn it over and then get right into it. So I've flipped it over. We've taken, just got a cover off. There's some screws as well that hold this on to this plate at the back. So as you can probably see, that this is the voice board down the bottom. That is the rhythm board with all the diodes, and all I want to do is have a quick look here. You can see this is where the power goes in. We've checked the fuse. It's not the fuse, put a new fuse in, still no power. So we're just going to have a quick look here and see if we can determine what's happened, basically, because here at the front here there's meant to be different voltages like 12 volts, etc, etc, and there's nothing on here. These must supply like the voice board and the rhythm board, so there's nothing here on like the low voltages either. So it's got to be a component somewhere here, or a loose connection or a solder joint that has gone astray. After making a few notes, etc, we've found out that under here there's like a transformer, and at the back here you've got the fuse holder, and you've got like a little voltage selector. You can select from, I think, 100 volts, 117 volts, 220 and 240, and it sort of goes from there over to this little transformer here. And as far as I can see, this transformer puts out 18 volts, and that drives all like the low voltage circuits. And then what I think has happened is, on this little transformer, the 240 volt side of it is not working. So you get 240 volts coming in here, which I think is this one here, the red and the brown wire coming on the 240 volt. We just get nothing. So I thought, well, what I'll do is I'll select 100 volts, and then off shot here I've got it running through my variac, so I've set my variac up to 100 volts just to test if the 100 volt side of this transformer is still working. Lo and behold, the little lights come on here, and here we go. The only thing that sounds a bit strange is the cymbal. This one here controls the level of the cymbal. I haven't turned it up too much because it sounds kind of distorted. What we need to do is do a few further tests, because you've got the power board under here, the low voltage board, and that's like got 18 volts. So I suppose if we run it 100 volts, so it's actually working, and then put the meter on it here to see if we're actually getting like 18 volts. Because I guess if we're getting less than 18 volts, it could be distorting. Also, there is a couple of, on this power board underneath here, there's a couple of capacitors. So they're going to be ancient. It might be worth changing those. Oh, 470 microfarad at 25 volts, so I've probably got some of those. So we could change those, because again, the capacitors could be so old, it's just making the circuit distort. So we might try that as well, but for the time being, yeah, it works. The problem is the 240 volt side of this transformer, who's obviously given up the ghost, probably after 50 years. Two choices: we could run it at a lower voltage, 117 volts maybe, it seems to work, or possibly we could get a new transformer, 240 in, 18 volts out, and then we could just run the 18 volts directly to the power board. Obviously that would work, but we'd only be able to do it at 240, which is not a problem. That's another solution. But for the time being, yeah, it works, and I'll show you. I'll put the temp up and down, and I'll turn the cymbal up, and you can hear it distorts. So there's obviously something not quite right. I've changed two capacitors. These two ones, these are on like the power supply. You know, they're so old, don't know if they're any good. Put some new ones on. It's about the same, about 19.5, 20 volts absolute tops. Switch cleaner in all of these, especially the cymbal, and the volume was a bit crackly. Cleaned it all up. We've got to look into it further because the cymbal seems a little bit distorted. I've got friend Dave said his one is very similar. So looking at the voice board on the bottom, there's loads of capacitors, so it could be any one of those just really old and starting to distort, or it could be something else. There you have it. Korg Minipops is working. We found out what the fault was. There's various options how to solve it, but it's in working condition at the moment. We'll see you in the workshop next time.